Hello and welcome. I'm Melinda Kinlami. Tonight, British court gives Process and Industrial Development Limited permission to seize Nigerian assets worth $9 billion over failed agreement to build gas processing plant in Calabar. Federal government moves to appeal judgment. Embattled Shiite leader Ibrahim Zaki and his wife returned to Nigeria after failing to undergo medical treatment in an Indian hospital. About 500 families displaced following heavy downpour in Gamdu, a resettled community in Borno State, previously sacked by insurgents. And Zimbabwe's main opposition party bows to pressure, calls off street protests as armed police fire tear gas to disperse crowd.
On business news, Ekiti State sets to tap into opportunities in the capital market as Governor Fayemi confirms possible public offering of state-owned enterprises.
On sports news tonight, reigning champions the Tigers of Nigeria qualify for the final of the 2019 FIBA Women's Afro-Basket Championship.
And from Abuja, concerns mount over security situation in Taraba State as more groups protest in Abuja demanding action by government to end killings.
$9 billion assets seized. That's the verdict from a UK court today in favor of a private firm against the federal government of Nigeria. The court judgment is a fallout of a case which started in 2010 when an agreement to build a gas processing plant in Calabar Cross River State collapsed between the federal government and Irish firm Process and Development Limited, P&ID. Now today, the judgment is in favor of the firm as they now have the go-ahead to seize the country's assets. According to the company, the 20-year-old agreement would see the firm build a state-of-the-art gas processing plant to refine natural gas, which Nigeria was to receive free of charge to power its national grid. The company intended to sell the byproducts from the process on the global market for profits in billions of dollars. The London court documents released shows that the arrangement fell through in 2012, while the arbitration tribunal in England awarded the firm $6.6 billion in damages in January 2017. And P&ID is claiming that it has accrued interest that amounts to more than $9 billion. A lawyer representing the company is quoted to have said that the firm plans to begin the process of seizing Nigerian assets in order to satisfy this award as soon as possible. The $9 billion awarded to the firm represents 1/5 of Nigeria's foreign reserves. In the meantime, the federal government is saying that it will not accept such a pronouncement, definitely not at this time, and is already making moves to file an appeal. The Solicitor General of the Federation, Mr. Dayo Akpata, says Nigeria has already asked his lawyers to seek for a stay of execution. He says that the dispute that led to the arbitration between the federal government and P&ID arose from a 20-year gas supply and processing agreement entered in 2010 through the Ministry of Petroleum Resources regards to an accelerated gas development project in Nigeria's OML 67 and 123. He says, and I quote, P&ID's claim in the arbitration proceedings was mainly for loss of profit for the entire 20-year term of GSPA, initially claiming the sum of $1.9 billion and later increasing its claim to $5.9 billion. The Solicitor General's comments explains that the matter was inherited from the previous administration, and the current administration engaged a new law firm to defend the country's interest when they took over. He adds that the federal government is making efforts to defend its interest in this matter and would not relent in exploring every viable option in doing so. Now let's get some more perspective on this matter, and we're being joined live from Abuja by a senior advocate of Nigeria and Vice Chancellor of Bayes University, Abuja, Professor Maman Tahil. Glad to have you join us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, how would you react to the judgment by the British court giving the go-ahead to P&ID to seize Nigerian assets?
Okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you. This is a very delicate and problematic case for Nigeria, given the volume of money involved and the efficiency of the judicial process in the United Kingdom, unlike Nigeria. Now, but obviously, as the Solicitor General mentioned, this is the first level of the courts. And so what is expected is for the Nigerian government to challenge that decision as quickly as possible at the appeal level and then apply for a stay so as to ensure that it doesn't face the kind of, because we are talking about the danger we are talking about, because $9 billion is not a small money. And the judicial process there too, as we said, doesn't stay long. So even the appellate stage may not last too long because of the interest that may arise on the judgment, in all these in the matter. And so the government has to vigorously pursue the appeal and apply for a stay.
Well, Professor Tahil, does the federal government have any chance of reversing this judgment?
Yes, in any trial, there's always a chance, there's always a possibility. And the only thing to do is to act in good time. And obviously, nobody will sit back and watch its assets, seized, especially given the amount of money, as I said, and the kind of, they would want to move as quickly as possible. And that's why the federal government of Nigeria have to act swiftly, to pursue its appellate rights, and then, apply for a stay of the enforcement of the judgment itself. And, that's why in a very general way, the government of Nigeria has to be much more careful in handling transactions involving international companies, because from the reports given, this is a company that was just starting business in Nigeria. And, and then even also looking at the terms of the award and the judgment itself, it covers the entire period of the contract, 20 years, and without the company putting in anything at all, although it claims to have spent about $40 million on preliminary matters, and to now go away with $9 billion, I mean, I can't think of any such a lucrative business like this. So that's why the government needs to challenge this with the most vigor and have the best legal teams available who are versed in international transactions, and probably a team of lawyers over there and teams from Nigeria to ensure that we don't take chances at all.
Going forward now, Prof, what are the lessons Nigeria can learn from this?
Greater diligence. This is just the main thing. Greater due diligence in entering into contracts with international firms. Because to me, it sounds quite like, if I may use the word, a bit of an insult, actually, for a firm to simply invest $40 million and expect to walk away with $6 billion initially. That was the initial award. And now, because of interest and other charges, going to $9 billion and increasing until the time the matter is settled finally. So the government of Nigeria, especially in oil transactions and all transactions for that matter, need to be extremely diligent in its negotiations, in the legal, covering all the legal tracks. And then even vetting carefully the companies it goes into contract with.
Professor Maman Tahil, it was a pleasure having you with us on the News at 10. Now, staying with legal matters, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has fixed August the 21st for parties in the case to present their closing arguments. At the last sitting of the tribunal, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and his party had insisted that President Muhammadu Buhari was not qualified to contest the February 23rd poll and he should be disqualified by the tribunal. In their final address, the petitioners claim to have established the fact that President Buhari does not possess the proper academic qualification for the position of President of Nigeria. In the 43-page final address filed by their lead counsel, Dr. Liva Uzoku, Alhaji Abubakar and the PDP also said that even President Buhari's own witnesses under cross-examination admitted to the fact that the president does not have a school certificate, being the basic requirement for contesting the position. They added that an analysis of results from 11 states showed how INEC connived with the president and the All Progressives Congress APC to wrongly credit President Buhari with invalid votes. In their own address, President Buhari and the APC asked the tribunal to reject such testimonies from the witnesses called by the PDP. And moving on to other stories now, the leader of the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim Zaki, and his wife Zinat returned to Nigeria today and have been taken into custody by security agents. Mr. Zaki and his wife were taken away immediately by security operatives as their plane, which brought them back from India, landed at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, this afternoon. Both of them had been granted leave to travel abroad for medical treatment in India and have been detained since 2015. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, has the rest of the story.
Since his arrest in 2015, following an impasse between the Islamic movement of Nigeria and the Nigerian army, the legal team of Sheikh Ibrahim Zaki have constantly called for his release to go seek treatment. That wish was granted on the 5th of August. And on the 12th of August 2019, the Sheikh and his wife left for India. 2 days after their arrival, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information and Culture, Mrs. Grace Gekpe, released a statement apologizing to the Indian government for what she described as his unruly behavior. According to the statement, he requested his passport be handed to him, refused to subject himself to preliminary medical checks, requested he be allowed to check into a 5-star hotel instead of a hospital, and asked that police protection be withdrawn from him by the Indian government. She went on to ask Nigerians to ignore the claims by the group that he's been held in circumstances worse than he was in Nigeria. The back and forth continued until a viral video released by the Sheikh on the 15th of August announced that he and his wife will be returning to Nigeria without getting any treatment. After a long wait, amid heavy security, the Ethiopian air flight ET911 landed at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at 12 noon. However, the Sheikh and his wife were whisked away by security operatives with no word to the waiting press. The spokesperson of the group released a statement after his arrival, accusing the Nigerian government of denying him access to doctors he was familiar with. The statement condemns the way he was taken away without being allowed to talk to the press, urging the agency holding him hostage to declare his whereabouts to the public. In response, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information has released yet another press statement, saying the Sheikh was repatriated for his misconduct. It reads in part, while in India, he initiated contacts with a team of lawyers led by Ali Zia Kabil Chowdhury and Gunjan Singh in that country. He also contacted some non-governmental organizations, such as the Islamic Human Rights Commission and other Shiite groups. His aim was to seek asylum and eventually relocate to another country. We spoke with a few Nigerians on how they feel about his return, as well as the impasse between the movement and the federal government.
There will continue to be agitations. What is important is how do we engage, how do we agitate, do we follow the laid-down procedure.
Government actually have to sit down with them and see how this entire situation have to be resolved so that we wouldn't have a second terrorist group.
The question on the lips of a lot of Nigerians at this very moment has to be, what next for the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria? Is he going to seek treatment in Nigeria? Is he going to some other country to seek treatment? What will be the next move as regards the health of him and his wife? A bigger issue also has to do with the problem between the Nigerian government and the Islamic movement of Nigeria. Will there ever be a solution to this problem? These are the questions that still linger. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, police arraigned lady before a magistrate court for beating a boy and locking him up in a dog cage in Lagos. Stay with us.